Yeah, I'll start it off. I guess for both you guys, welcome back. First for Kellers. I mean, can you just talk us through that return from the hamstring injury and just kind of how that's kind of progressed leading into this test on Saturday?
Yeah, 7 weeks today since I busted the hamstring up at Raw Pines. So look, it was actually a pretty slow process. At least it felt like that for me. But very, very grateful to have the medical staff here, firstly, but more importantly down in Melbourne, where I did the lion's share of my rehab. Those blokes coming in their time off to look after me there. So ripped into it, and here we are with, hopefully, touch wood, no complications.
So as just kind of progressing through, I mean, I know it's between that first and second test, you found yourself wing, fullback. Is there any kind of positions you've been kind of working in more, perhaps, or is it just kind of focus on trying to just get back in the park first and foremost?
Nice question, probing. I like it. No, trying to get in as many as possible, to be honest, trying to get back across all the calls and that sort of stuff. It's amazing how much you forget in 8 weeks. So, dropped in a bit of fullback, bit of wing, everywhere.
I guess preparing for South Africa, I mean, I think South Africa haven't won Australia in about 8 or 9 years. There's some incredible record going on. Is there something in particular about the sort of South African game style that kind of suits the way the Wallabies play, or why, Wallabies been able to build such a dominant home record against them so far?
Oh, just what we know of them, is that South Africa are a team that, just pride themselves on set piece. So I think all the games that I've been a part of, we've always mentioned in the forward pack that, that we need to take it to them there because we understand that it is a threat, coming against us, so because they have a world-class pack. So we understand that around their game, that is something that they pride themselves on and probably something that they're going to try and go to a lot of, on Saturday.
And sorry, just one more from me. For Al, you talk about that pack. I mean, it's a real 80-minute effort when you have guys like Malcolm Marks coming off the bench and sort of that real bomb squad mentality they have. Does that kind of just amplify the need for, say, 1 to 23, this side to be switched on if you want to get a result in Adelaide?
Yeah, definitely. Because we see that their bomb squad or, what they call their bench come on, sometimes in the first half, so... I think for us, we call our bench the finishers, and I think we've gone past the time where the starters are starting and playing 80 minutes or so. The guys off the bench have a job to do, and their job is to come on and add impact. So that's going to be the expectation of our boys, and something that whoever's on the bench has that role and making sure that they fulfill that.
Andrew, welcome back to the camp, and I'm sure you're relieved to be there. Tell me about your progression with your hamstring. Are you back fully fit? And do you feel like if you were to be given a jersey this week that could be seamless, that there wouldn't necessarily be the rust that can sometimes plague players when they come back quickly?
Yeah, thank you, firstly. No, I don't think so. I think I wouldn't have put my hand up to come back into camp if I wasn't ready to go. So, that's an easy one to answer. The process was, as I said before, pretty smooth, to be honest. I was really lucky. As I said, the boys are in off-season down in Melbourne, so I was lucky to have access to the staff almost uninterrupted. So we got through a lot of work down there. And whilst today was a pretty tough old hit out on the lungs, look, I'm ready to go. And if I get the call up, then how good.
Can you just tell us how disappointing it was when the injury came? Because clearly you were going to play fullback in that second test. It would have been pretty damn frustrating, I imagine.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. I think I was... I was looking forward to playing fullback. It's an opportunity doesn't come by very often, particularly in this team with the depth that we have there now. But it is what it is, man. It could happen running late to a meeting. So crack on and get on with it.
And perhaps just a response from the two of you on this one. A lot's changed in the last month. No Quade, no Samu, no Michael Hooper. Is there a bit of a change in the atmosphere? Is there a bit of a buzz? We know that Dave Rennie yesterday said that there's a bit of a added emphasis and a bit of a push about a result and working. Clearly it's a big month ahead. So what's the change in dynamics at the moment, just from what it was before the England series to now?
I think it's more, that the boys have been, pretty gutted after that last game. We spoke about it as players that we thought we had the right game plan in place from the coaches, but we just weren't good enough as players to put it on the field, and that's our job, So we got to be accountable on that front, and we had some tough conversations yesterday, in review, but it's all for us, to get better and to apply this weekend, So we've had some great additions back into the camp, Kells, Scotty, Parecki, a bit of experience there, which has been awesome. But yeah, it's just that we just had a sour taste in our mouth after the last game, and unfortunately we went on break and a lot of the boys were probably thinking about it the whole time, everyone turned up this morning in one of our big in one of our big training sessions this morning and had a bit of edge, so that's a good feeling for our preparation so far.
Thank you.
Andrew, do things feel a little more settled, I guess? I know you haven't been part of the group for a while, but, a number of senior guys coming back, playing against a pretty experienced Springbok team. Is there just a more settled vibe amongst the squad, kind of getting back to what you were at the start of the July series?
I don't think settled's the right word, but yeah, I mean, anytime you lose a bunch of guys and get a bunch back, definitely adds to that. Personally, I'm just pumped to be back. You got guys like Kirtley and Bernard particularly, who I was in the Tars while they were sort of winning titles and doing those sorts of things. So for me, I'm just pumped to be back and involved with those guys floating about. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, as I said before, I think things start to settle down when guys come back from injury. But the depth was fantastic. I thought the guys did a really, really good job, with the exception of that last performance, which Al sort of touched on. We did a fantastic job with the depth we had.
What's the impact of those kind of guys back in the squad, Bernard and Kirtley? I mean, I don't know whether Kirtley's available for selection or not, but just in terms of being there, done that factor.
Oh yeah, they're big personalities, both of them. I think Kirtley brings his infectious laugh everywhere he goes. So, he's firstly bringing a bit of morale up, like he's one of those guys who pumps everyone up around him, and that's a really great thing. Bernard the same, both coming back with their own experiences from France and Japan, and trying to, I suppose, impart those experiences, on a few of the younger guys and the older guys, to be honest. But for the most part, having them around, I think, makes everybody else feel really confident. So it's great to have them.
Guys, I've got a question for each of you, but on the same similar theme. But I'll start with Allan, if that's okay. There's reports from a meeting on Super Rugby last week between Australia and New Zealand about a bunch of rule changes to make the game, I guess, more palatable or speed it up. The first one I want to ask Allan about is the 60-second scrum reset. I mean, to those of us who don't put our heads in where you do all the time, can you kind of explain what that would mean to a prop? How much more difficult that would make the game for you, or not?
I think, just with that, like we understand that as players, like we got to understand that we need to put something in place, to make it more attractive, to the crowd. So if that's the way that we end up going, then so be it. But in terms of what we need to do and train more, it's probably around, like we don't want to set up a quick scrum and then engage, because then we put ourselves at risk of injury. Our neck or back, just to name a couple for the front row, So, but we got to understand as players as well that that if that's the way that we need to change the game, then we need to implement that first at training, or at least take a couple of years or one year max to at least practice that. Because I feel like if we don't get it right, someone will get injured, and we probably just can't afford to do that.
Sorry, and as a follow to that, obviously there's a big issue in the game, accidental concussions and, cards coming from that. Do you think if they rush this, there's a chance that fatigue becomes more of a factor and you get more? I kind of guess more of those kind of accidental mistakes or collisions come in if you're not getting enough, the same amount of rest between scrums.
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely when you're more fatigued, and try and rush something, as you said, mate, you're probably going to be at more risk of injury, so that's why I feel like you just got to be able to train it more, because if we don't implement that at training, then we're probably going to be at high risk, come game time, but I know that players and staff as well are all open to changing our game to make it more attractive as well.
Do you sometimes feel that there's a lack of understanding of what actually goes on in a scrum from people making laws?
Sometimes. Sometimes outside backs have a few things to say as well. But yeah. It should be good, mate.